IELTS Speaking by Mark Allen, 2007. Part 2 and Part 3. Part 2 The individual long turn. Part 3 Two-way discussion. Topic 31 to 40.
Topic 31. An unsatisfactory purchase. Cue card. Describe an item that you bought that you were dissatisfied with. You should say what the item was, when and where you bought it, why you were not happy with this product, and explain what you did after you found that it was unsatisfactory.
Well, I very much enjoy drinking coffee. Unfortunately, I do not always have very hot water. 3 months ago, I decided to do something about it. I went to the Fuchangmen market to buy a water heater. I chose the most convenient one, a little pad on which you place your cup, and it is supposed to heat the liquid inside. It was being sold for a very reasonable price, and I only had to bargain for a short time. I brought it home, but then forgot about it for about 1 month. One day I wanted to have some hot coffee, and remembered the water heater I had bought. So I went and found it and plugged it in. However, when I placed the cup on the pad, it heated the coffee very poorly. In fact, it didn't even make the coffee warm. I was very angry, so I threw it away. Now I have to use a stove to boil the water first. I'm sure next time I decide to buy such a product as a water heater, I will look in a more reliable place and probably try to get a trusted brand. I will also have to write a note to remind myself of my purchase, so that I can discover problems earlier and thus have time to exchange it.
Part 3. Shopping in China. 1. Are the services in big stores and small ones the same?
Of course not. In big stores, there are often plenty of attendants to help you with your choice, whereas in small stores you are left to yourself. Also, if you do not go to a reliable store, you sometimes cannot exchange your purchase if you find fault with it.
2. What services should shops provide?
They should have people there who are familiar with the store and its product to help you find what you need. Some shops should provide snack bars in case you get hungry or thirsty while shopping. I also think it would be helpful if stores had a delivery service, so if you were busy, you would not have to do the shopping yourself. Maybe some shops could provide discounts to frequent customers.
3. Which do you think is more important in a shop, service or the quality of the goods?
The quality of goods? I think the quality is most important because if there are no services, people can take care of themselves. Services are simply a luxury, an extra, and pretty much unnecessary. But if the products are not of good quality, then they will not meet the needs of the customer. This, in the end, may make the customer search for another shop.
4. What are the advantages and disadvantages of supermarkets?
One advantage is that you can find everything you need in the same store. Another is that you can find several brands of the same product and then make a better selection. I do think, however, that the disadvantages slightly outweigh the advantages. For one, a supermarket can be noisy and large, confusing the new shoppers. Also, prices tend to be higher in big supermarkets.
5. How can supermarkets attract more customers or retain customers?
Well, I would say by making sure there are plenty of different options for each product, different varieties and prices. Maybe also advertising sales. Of course, if they did that, they would need to have more sales so that people feel the supermarket is better than the others. The supermarket should be clean and well kept, and employees should be reliable. Those at the checkout counters should know the product, and also know how to use the machines well, so that they do not hold up the customers.
Products. 6. What are the advantages and disadvantages of machine-made and handmade goods?
I have recently discovered the superiority of handmade products, especially in clothes. When something is personally made, it has a special feel, and the quality is much finer. Machines do not have eyes to catch the defects. However, when it comes to handmade products, the production process may not be sanitary, or those making the product may not be fully reliable in making it correctly.
7. Do people prefer machine-made or handmade products?
I would say nowadays people prefer the machine-made products. I think I may be one of the odd ones out when it comes to wanting hand-tailored clothing, but it really depends on the products. Maybe those people who have a little more money can afford to choose things made by hand, which have been made correctly and in a clean and satisfactory environment.
8. What handmade products do you think will still be popular in the future?
In my opinion, it would be clothes and some decorations. There are some things that require the classic feeling of quality and uniqueness. Machines often take the creativity out of an object. When something is hand-carved or hand-sewn, it makes you feel as though this product is special and is worth more.
9. How do you feel about food additives that are in the food you buy?
The only good point I know of to food additives is that they make the food look or taste better. Other than that, I have to say they make me afraid to eat certain foods. I won't buy foods that I know have a lot of preservatives or MSG. I think these harmful chemicals used in food production should be made illegal. I mean, thousands of years ago, man survived and even enjoyed his food without these damaging additives.
10. What rights do you think consumers have?
Slightly difficult question. The right of choice, maybe. If I go into a supermarket, do I have a choice between food loaded with preservatives and that naturally grown with organic fertilizers and nothing added? No, I do not. And I think the right of choice should be provided to consumers. If I were able to choose between products with too high a sugar content and those with natural healthy sugar, I would feel much more satisfied.
Topic 32. Exhibitions. Cue card. Describe an art exhibition that you visited. You should say when you saw this exhibition, where the exhibition was held, what was on display, and explain your impression of the exhibition.
When I was a little girl, I went to a museum near my home that was exhibiting life-size wax sculptures. It was in a large room of the museum. The wax figures showed people from different occupations and different poses. Each looked so real that it almost seemed as if a real person was actually standing there and staying perfectly still. For the first half hour, when I was in the room, I was sure that one of the figures would begin to move and that I would finally prove that they were really just people. The skill of the sculptor was amazing in how each one was perfectly made to exhibit the human body's texture, posture, and size. I was especially amazed at the wax figure of the cowboy. It seemed that he came right out of an old Western movie with his cowboy pants, gun, and spurred boots. There was also the figure of a woman at a beach, with a swimsuit, towel, sunglasses, and surfboard. There was a policeman, his hand held out to stop traffic with a whistle in his mouth. There was a mechanic with his hand resting on the hood of a car that he had just fixed, and the illusion of grease smudges all over his hands, face, and clothes. As a young girl, I was amazed at how someone could make a statue look so real. Part 3. Museums. 1. Does China have many museums? What kind?
Yes, there are many. In the places that I've been, most of the museums are about dinosaurs or stars. There are also some marine, bird, and insect museums. Often there's a little bit of all of them mixed into one museum.
2. Are museums popular in China?
Not so popular. They are mostly for children or students. Sometimes you will see a whole family go to a museum or perhaps a young couple, but it is quite rare. Sometimes grandparents will take their grandchildren there.
3. How could museums attract more visitors?
I think if the museums had more interactive exhibits, then they would be more interesting for most people. It would also help people to learn more from actually being able to see firsthand what is happening and how different things work. Having exhibits that change each week or so would make people who have already been there want to go again to see something new. Also, people who have not gone yet would want to go as soon as they can so they don't miss something. Whereas, if it's always the same, then they would put it off, thinking they catch it later.
4. Do you think people should have to pay to visit museums?
I think it's not a good idea for people to have to pay all the time. I think it's a good idea for part or most of the museum to be free, but if people want to see certain parts or participate in special things, then they have to pay. If people have to pay each time they go, and especially if it's expensive, then many won't go or won't go very often. The reason why I think this is bad is that I think it's very educational to be able to look at and learn from all the things in museums.
5. How will museums change in the future?
I think that museums will become more modernized and more accurate. I think that they will have better and more interesting exhibits. The way they are set up and advertised, I think, will also improve so that they are more appealing to the general public. I think they will also have more interesting themes displayed and exhibited.
Art education. 6. Do schools in China have art classes?
No, not really. Sometimes they do, but most of the time, if the students or their parents want children to study art, they must go to special art classes. Or the schools do have art classes, but they aren't part of the curriculum, and parents must pay extra to have their children attend these classes. More often than not, children in China don't take art classes, and few children ever develop an interest in it.
7. Should arts education be part of the school curriculum?
Yes, it should. I think art is a very important subject because it not only encourages self-expression, but also is a creative art and helps to develop artistic creativity in many areas of life, not just art. Also, children who feel they are accomplished and are able to do something more than study do better in other classes and subjects because they have a higher self-esteem. Children who don't know how to do anything other than their basic subjects will feel inferior to their peers and will not perform as well in class as they could.
8. How do you think art classes affect child development?
They help to develop a child's creativity and curiosity. They help a child express himself through the things he draws, notice the things around him, and learn from them. Art also encourages an admiration for nature and living things, so children who have been taught to appreciate art are less likely to do things that are harmful to the environment, to others, or to themselves.
9. What kind of paintings do Chinese people like?
That's a little hard to answer. I think that Chinese paintings are very popular in China. Most people here in China like paintings in the Chinese style or paintings of familiar scenes here. There are also quite a few abstract and realistic paintings and styles that are popular with certain groups of people.
10. Some paintings are very expensive, but people still want to buy them. Why do you think they do so?
I think that most of the time they want to have a very expensive painting so that they can show it off to their friends. Or maybe they feel it makes them look more in style or more fashionable to have expensive paintings by famous people. Some people collect paintings or works of art, so they will get anything they think will look nice with their collections.
11. What benefits can you get from painting as a hobby?
I think there are many benefits. For one, it can be very relaxing to paint, especially if you are outside in nature. Also, it can help to take your mind off any problem or stress that you might have from your work. It will also improve your creativity and help you to think better.
Topic 33. Being late. Cue card. Describe an important occasion you were late for. You should say when this happened, what occasion you were late for, why you were late, and explain what happened as a result of your lateness.
One occasion that I was late for was not that long ago. What happened was that I had some important work to do, and there was a deadline on this work. At the time, in our house, we need finances. Some unexpected things came up, and we were a little short. Then an opportunity came, almost like a godsend, a chance where I could make some extra money. On top of that, by the graciousness of my friends, who are more like my family, they agreed to help me with this project that had a deadline to it, so I was very happy about that. Meanwhile, I started taking care of some business, but then I looked at my watch and noticed I was 5 minutes late for getting together with my friends. I thought, here my friends are willing to help me with this project and deadline, and here I am, 5 minutes late. By the time I got there, I was 10 minutes late, and there they all were waiting for me. You talk about embarrassing. Well, all I could do was apologize, and thankfully they all accepted my apology, and we moved on.
Part 3. Being late. 1. What are some of the excuses that people make when they are late?
Well, the alarm didn't go off, the bus was late, or I was caught in traffic. Those are just a few of the most heard excuses. My mum is sick, and I have to take care of her, is another. I have to take my brother to school, will work sometimes. I got caught in the rain, helps in the springtime.
2. Are people in China usually punctual when they have to be somewhere at a certain time?
Well, I wouldn't say that they are there on time every time, but they are getting there. They are starting to have the same attitude with people in the West, that time is money. It really is a bit of a hard habit to break, as the style of life and the culture have not been that of arriving right on the dot. Of course, if people really want to be punctual, and it is really important to them, then they will do everything they can to get there on time.
3. What do people in China think of people who are late?
Actually, Chinese people are pretty generous overall with people who are late. They are understanding and don't make a big deal out of it. On the other hand, if they are really bothered by people being late, you wouldn't know about it anyway, as most Chinese people don't reveal their feelings very easily. Overall, they are pretty easygoing on people who are late.
4. Do you think it's important to be on time? Is punctuality important?
Yes, I think it is very important to be on time. If you are not on time, then you are basically robbing the time of others. It really shows a lack of respect for others and that you don't think their time is important.
5. For what situations is being on time important?
Immediately, the first thing that comes to my mind is your own wedding. If any event is important, I would say that is getting to your wedding. There is a funny saying in the West. It goes something like this: he would be late to his own funeral. I suppose that is a little extreme, but funny, though no one has ever been late for that. A job interview would be an important time not to be late. If you want to make a good impression, and they say, first impressions are the greatest ones, then you should try to be there early.
6. For what situations is being on time not very important?
If you were going to go and meet your friends for a game of basketball and you knew they were going to be there for the afternoon, then you would not have to get there on the dot, but would have a little leeway on arriving. If you were supposed to be home for dinner, but you came in a little late, that would be understandable. If you were going to your parents for the day and you came a little late, they would understand. Most situations in which being late isn't too important would involve friends and family.
Time. 7. Do you think modern technology gives us more time or less?
Definitely less. If anything, modern technology has sped time up with things moving faster every day. Because of email, now letters are able to be sent and received, and answers are expected right away sometimes. With transportation, you can get to places faster and do a lot more. Things are actually moving incredibly fast, and that means less time for all.
8. Did people in the past lead a faster-paced life or a slower-paced life than today?
Well, I think that there is no comparison with the life of the past and today. In the past, things definitely went a lot slower. You know that 200 and some years ago, the fastest means of transportation was on the back of a horse. And now you can circle the globe in hours. There was no email or internet, so information went creeping along at a leisurely pace. I think that maybe things were moving so slowly that some people felt bored with it. But now it seems that people are bored with this fast-paced modern life that we live.
9. Do you think the current working hours of most people are reasonable?
I know that in the US, people are working more and more hours, and even here in China, people have to work overtime. It seems that your work should get accomplished in the time that you have during a 9-to-5 day, but sometimes that doesn't happen. It seems to me that however long it takes to get your work done would be a reasonable amount of hours to put in. I'm sure that people would like to work fewer hours, and that would be nice, but again it depends on what their job and goals are.
10. Is it reasonable for an employer to ask employees to work overtime?
Of course, an employer should ask his employees to work overtime if it is really needed. Some people probably think that it is not needed, but if it is going to help the company, then they should be willing to do it. Now, if some employees are doing their work and others aren't, and all have to work overtime, then I would say that no, this is not really needed, and the problem should be fixed first. Actually, I think that if the employee is conscientious, then he would volunteer to work overtime if needed. Topic 34. A time when you help someone. Cue card. Describe a time when you helped someone. You should say who you helped, how you helped them, how you felt when you helped them, and explain how this person benefited from your help.
Well, I try to help people whenever I can, even if it is in a small way. I try to help my parents with work in the house, and I usually help with the cooking whenever I'm around at the time the meal is being made. If I pass beggars on the street, I often give them something, though not always. Sometimes I'm not sure they are real poor people, because I've heard there are a lot of fakes who just pretend to be poor or sick. One time in particular, I passed an old man who was begging. It was early in the morning, and I was on my way to a class. Something inside me caused me to take special note of this man. I started to get some money out of my bag for him, when it seemed as if a little voice inside told me to get some food for him instead. I surprised myself at this idea, so I hesitated for a moment, but I couldn't shake the thought. So I went to the nearby market and bought him some fresh stuffed buns, about 5 of them, and a cup of warm soy milk. Then I went back to the man and handed it to him and said some kind words to him. I think he was very happy to have some warm food on a chilly morning. Honestly, though, I think doing this might have made me happier than it did him. I really felt good after helping him.
Part 3. Helping others. 1. In general, why do people help others?
I think it's the kindness that exists in most human hearts, at least a little. Many of us have needed some help ourselves from time to time, and we know what it feels like to need something. We know it feels good to have help from others when we need it, so we want to help others in the same way. Also, as I mentioned before, often it simply makes us happy to help others in some way.
2. Do you think it's important to help people who need help?
Of course it's important. We have a responsibility to do our part, whether it's in our family, our workplace, or amongst friends. None of us are like little islands with nothing or no one around us. We influence each other and contribute to the atmosphere and environment around us. At least we should. And just as we want others to help us, we should naturally be willing to help others.
3. How do you feel after you have helped someone?
Usually I feel very good when I've helped someone, even if the help I gave was difficult for me or at an inconvenient time. Even if it was a sacrifice for me, afterwards, it seems that I am happier than when I began, and sometimes I even seem to have more energy or time left for myself. It may sound funny, but sometimes it seems a little like magic how I end up with more time or more energy or more money or whatever after I have given some away to another person.
4. Many people only look out for themselves and never think about helping others. What do you think of this attitude?
I think it's sad. I know it is common, but it's a sad statement of modern life, at least in big cities. I know not everybody is that way, but nowadays a lot of people have become very selfish. It seems that so many people are in such a rush to get rich or get better jobs or into the best schools that they hardly even notice people who need help. Maybe if people were not so absorbed in their own worlds, they would see the needs more and would do something about it. At least I hope so.
Helping visitors. 5. What is the most important way for a country to help visitors?
Probably the most common form of help needed by foreigners is help with the language. I've also seen foreigners on the streets who seem to be a little lost. Sometimes they're looking at their maps, trying to find a famous tourist spot. So giving directions is another common way to help foreigners. I've done this a few times, and it was an interesting chance to talk to someone from another country.
6. Do you think that countries should help other countries in need?
Yes, by all means. Our country has helped other countries many times, such as after the tsunami, which caused so much damage in Thailand, Indonesia, and India. We also sent aid to the United States after the severe hurricanes a few years ago. I think we should look at the world as a very large neighborhood, and if we can try and do as much as possible for our neighbors, everyone is a lot happier and friendlier towards each other.
Helping people in society. 7. What kinds of people need help in China?
I think one of the biggest groups in our society needing help is the farmers. It would be better if the wealth and economic progress in our country was more evenly distributed. I live in a fairly prosperous family. We're not rich, but we do have plenty, and though I'm happy for this, I feel a little guilty that others have so much less than I do.
8. How does the government try to help these people?
I think one of the main ways is by investing in business in a certain part of the country, so that more jobs are created for the local people. Another way is by providing training, for example, in farming, in ways that can increase productivity. Also, the government should make sure that officials of the provinces are doing their jobs correctly. The government is trying to eliminate corruption at the local level.
9. Are there any non-government organizations in China that help people?
Yes, there are. At first, many of these were foreign, but that is changing now. Although there are still foreign organizations that help people, there are also more and more Chinese charitable organizations being set up. I just read some articles about this.
10. Where do these organizations get their money from?
The foreign organizations get their money from overseas. Some of the funding is governmental, but a lot of it comes from private donations. Here in China, more individuals are getting involved in charities. It's relatively new, but with the increased income of people, there is more of an awareness of a need to help others who are less fortunate. Topic 35. Busy days. Cue card. Describe a time when you are very busy. You should say when this time is, what you do at this time, how you arrange your time, and explain how you feel after this busy time is over.
Usually, at the end of the term, my teachers start giving me a bunch of homework to help me prepare for the exam. I have 6 classes: Chinese, Math, Science, History, Geography and English, and each teacher gives me so much homework that by the end of the week I have a stack of papers that look the size of a small book. I must complete all this homework before the next week begins, or I will face a penalty. So what else can I do but get busy and start burning the candle at both ends, and burning the midnight oil until the work is done? It means forget about basketball and watching TV, and even just fooling around with my friends. It means stinging eyes and large yawns during the day. It means brain overload for a while. Now, how do I feel when it is over? Well, how does a tree feel after a storm? How does a branch feel when the weight is gone? How does a bird sing after the rain? I know that I am getting a bit poetic, but actually it feels quite good to be relieved of this pressure. I like to go out in the sunshine and fresh air and just walk around to enjoy life for a while.
Part 3. Time Management. 1. Do you manage your time effectively?
It really depends on what I'm doing. If I'm in a lazy mood, I tend to do whatever first comes to mind, but when I am more active, I usually organize what I'm supposed to do by importance. Sadly, more often than not, I forget to organize my thoughts and end up wasting a lot of precious time, but I'm working on changing all that.
2. Do you like making detailed plans?
I don't usually make detailed plans for the work I'm doing, but I really like the outline method, where you just list the main points and sub-points of your project. Then you can clearly see what you need to accomplish and how realistic your time frame needs to be. But for the most part, I don't particularly like drawing detailed plans.
3. What are the advantages of making plans?
One advantage, like I said before, is that you can clearly see what it is you need to accomplish and better plan about how much time you need to accomplish it. Another advantage is that important details are less likely to be left out. Quite a few times I've had to go back and redo something that I was working on just because I overlooked a small but important detail, which in the end cost me a lot of extra time and sometimes money. Thankfully, I've been getting better at time management and have fewer problems than before.
4. Do you use any special tools, such as a computer, to help you draw up plans?
Like I said, I'm an extremely lazy person, so I usually try to be as simple as I can when drawing up plans. I'll usually use a sheet of paper and a pencil to write up whatever it is I'm planning. The only problem is that I often lose the paper and have to go back and rewrite it. This is, in my opinion, a huge waste of time, so I've been thinking about using my computer to make my plans and hopefully save time. And paper.
5. Do you keep a diary?
I've tried on several occasions to start a diary, but I usually forget about it after a week or so. I think I've started about 7 diaries in my lifetime, and the longest one lasted for about 2 months. Diaries just don't seem to work for me, so I think I'll spend my time doing more profitable things, like playing my guitar. Maybe someday I'll start a diary and actually keep it, but for now I think I'll just stay away from them.
Leisure time. 6. Compare the way old people and young people spend their leisure time.
Many old people spend their leisure time indoors, sitting down, reading a book or resting, or they might go outside for a brisk walk in the evening. Many of them enjoy watching TV or knitting. Young people, on the other hand, enjoy a variety of things. Many do the same things I mentioned that old people do, but in my opinion there are many more options available if you are young. You can play sports, go clubbing at night, participate in extreme sports like bungee jumping or skydiving. That might give an older person a heart attack.
7. Do people today have more leisure time than before?
I think that since modern appliances have cut down the amount of unnecessary physical work we need to, there is more time for leisure. You don't have to gather wood to make a fire, and you don't have to spend 1 or 2 hours lighting your fire. Cell phones and instant messaging make it possible to communicate immediately with your friends and associates, cutting back on time needed to wait for telegraphs or snail mail replies. The only problem is that even though everything is so much easier, there are other complications that people in the past didn't have, such as traffic jams and long lines at the supermarket. Also, it really depends on the person, because I know some people who never rest or take time off. They're always working and never stop. But I also know some guys who are the total opposite. They make every excuse why they can't do what's being asked of them, and I imagine that in the past it was the same.
8. Do you think leisure time is important? Why?
Yes, I think that leisure time is very important. Like the saying goes, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. If you're working non-stop and never take the time to let your hair down, you'll most likely get stressed out and even get sick. If I don't take some time to just relax a bit every week, I end up getting sick and have to stay in bed for a few days. So in my opinion, leisure time is vital to maintaining health and sanity.
9. How have leisure activities changed in China in the past few years?
Well, for one thing, many more Chinese, mostly young people, have been spending a lot more time on their computers, either playing games, studying, doing research and business, or any number of things. Before, if you wanted to relax, you just went for a walk, read a book, or played mahjong with friends. Now, the possibilities are endless. Many people still relax in the traditional ways, but many more are finding new and different ways to spend their leisure time.
10. How do you think leisure time activities will change in the future?
You know what? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, 10 years ago, did you think that modern technology would be as advanced as it is now? They have MP3 and MP4 players. Who knows, they might come out with an MP5 next year, where you actually experience what you're seeing. Computers are getting smaller and smaller. Someday you might have to use a microscope to view your computer screen. Music players, for that matter, are also getting smaller, slimmer, and more compact. A few years from now, you might be able to get an MP3 player in a little chip under your skin that's controlled by your brain. Topic 36. Practical skills. Cue card. Describe a practical skill that you have. You should say what this skill is, how you learned it, when you use this skill, and explain how this skill is useful to you.
Well, one skill that I have is playing the guitar. I learned it when I was young. I learned how to play because I had many friends that played the guitar, and when they played and sang, I knew I just had to learn. At first it was a little difficult because, to be quite frank, I really didn't see myself as someone who was musically inclined. I had to tell myself that I could do it, and little by little, a note here and a chord there, I managed to pick it up. Even now I have a long way to go with playing, but I have found it enjoyable, not just for myself, for others have said they enjoy it as well. I have had a few guitars, and although there are different styles and qualities, to me it seems that as long as they have strings on them and you can tune them, they are fine. I use the guitar to cheer myself up when I'm feeling a little down, and also use it to teach songs to others. I have never made money teaching guitar, but I have made a little money playing and singing. I don't know if I would want to pursue this skill as a career, but as long as I still enjoy it, I'm going to do it.
Part 3. Practical skills. 1. Compare the importance of practical skills and academic skills.
Well, actually both are much needed in society. It seems to me that practical skills such as knowing how to cook a meal, or clean a house, or take care of children are slipping, whereas academic skills such as teaching a class or doing research seem to be on the rise. This is not bad in itself because there need to be people who are thinking about how things work and how to improve them, but the skills needed for everyday life shouldn't be looked on as any less important than others.
2. How can people learn practical skills?
A lot of these skills can be learned at home with their mother and father and family. Skills such as sewing, budgeting, or maintenance can be learned from an aunt or uncle, grandfather or grandmother. If more difficult trades want to be learned, such as plumber, or electrician or mason, there are vocational schools that could teach those. The main thing to learning a skill is the motivation that is involved.
Children and practical skills. 3. What practical skills do children learn at school in China?
I'm afraid there are not many. Academics are stressed so highly in schools that they seem to overshadow practical skills. I suppose students probably learn to listen to their teacher and how to behave and sit for long periods at a time and apply themselves. They also have to learn how to interact amongst themselves in a satisfactory way. They have to learn how to get up on time and be at their school, which teaches them responsibility. I guess it would help to define what practical skills we're talking about.
4. Do you think children should learn some practical skills at school?
I think that children should learn practical skills at school. This would help to prepare them for life outside of school. A lot of times not much thought is put into how to manage money or take care of an apartment, but I think these skills would be helpful. Life in the working world can be a lot different than the sheltered life of schooling. So, having some practical skills, such as those learned from a part-time job, would be beneficial to a student.
5. How useful will these skills be to the children after they leave school?
Well, as I was saying in the previous question, these skills would be very helpful to children after they leave school. When a teenager goes from high school to college, he has to start managing things on his own, without the security of mum and dad. Even more so when a young adult graduates from college or university, he would also be very grateful to have some practical knowledge on how to survive in the working world.
Adult education. 6. Do you think it's useful for adults to attend classes to further their education?
Sure, why not? If it is something that they find useful in their lives and something that they enjoy. Learning is lifelong, and I don't know if it has to stop in old age. Now I know that a lot of times these adults are looked upon as teachers, but if they feel so inclined, why not attend a class to further their education? If they are not able to keep up with the young students, then this would be a detriment. But if there are no disruptions, why not?
7. What kinds of courses exist in China for adults?
There are wonderful exercise classes that are available for adults in China. I don't know if you have seen large groups of older women on the streets performing with various percussion instruments, but these are classes that help them to work together and perform for audiences. There are dancing classes available. There are even English classes available for senior citizens in China. There are Tai Chi classes also available to seniors here. As time goes on and the country develops, there will be more classes that will be available for seniors.
8. What are some reasons why adults might attend classes?
Well, I guess one of the main ones is that they're working and they need to keep up with the latest technology that will help them stay abreast of the latest in their fields. Sometimes they might even be thinking of switching careers, so they take classes to get the training to do so. Other times they might just want to learn some things in their spare time that will enhance their life on a recreational level. Other times their bosses might want them to learn some special skill for the good of the company.
9. Who do you think should pay for adult education? The government, the student, or the company? If it is a work-related course.
Again, it depends on the course and why they are taking it. If it is for personal gain or gratification, then of course students should be responsible to pay for it. If the government is offering a course and adults are interested in it, then it is already paid for. If it is going to move the company ahead and bring financial results, then of course the company should pay for it. Now, if the company can't pay for it, and it interests the individual, then it is up to him to get the money together to attend the class. Topic 37. To start a small business. Cue card. Describe a small business that you would like to own. You should say what this business would be, how you would open this business, how you would run this business, and explain why you would like to run this kind of business.
I've always been interested in different kinds of handcrafted jewellery, such as macrame, beading, Chinese knot tying, and other kinds of knotting and stitching with cord or wire. So I'm thinking I'd like to go into business selling and making that kind of jewellery. It wouldn't even have to be a big production, just a few people making and selling bracelets, necklaces, and other accessories. Maybe if we became popular and more people start buying our products, we could even open a small shop and take special orders. We could also have classes where we teach people how to make their own jewellery. I was thinking that my cousin could help me since she is quite good with her hands. I think she has some friends who are good at macrame, so they could help also. We could put an ad in the newspaper or on the internet and sell our wares that way. During holidays, we'd travel around China and sell our jewellery at famous parks and places that tourists frequent. We'd each just make the things that we're best at so that we get a bunch of quality products in as short an amount of time as possible. The main reason I'd start a business like this is because it's something that I enjoy doing, and I don't think I could work at a job that I don't like.
Part 3. Small business. 1. What challenges and difficulties do people face when they try to open a small business?
One of the main challenges for small businesses is just staying open. Most small businesses close within a year after they're open, so if they get past that hurdle, the next most important thing they'll have to tackle is getting long-term customers. Depending on what kind of business they're starting, they'll also have to advertise their products and services. Good advertisements is really what makes the difference between the success and failure of their business.
2. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of small businesses compared to large companies?
One advantage of having a small business is that you don't have to be tied down by company rules, regulations, and protocols. You are free to operate as you please and don't have to worry about getting the approval of the CEO or some other person higher up on the ladder than you. There are some disadvantages, though, to having a small business. The main one is that if you're not careful, the big businesses will put you out of business by slashing their prices or advertising heavily. You see, they can afford to make their prices lower than yours simply because they have more money.
3. How can small businesses benefit the people in their community?
Small businesses are able to cater to the whims and wishes of the people that they are near. They get to know their customers and can specialize in taking care of them. Small businesses can even watch out for community members. If they are used to seeing them and they notice a change in their routine, the business could report this to someone who would be concerned about them. Having a small business, like a restaurant for instance, creates a family-like feeling in the neighborhood, as opposed to going to McDonald's, for instance, where they don't know you from Adam.
4. Compare small shops with big, international department stores and supermarkets.
I really don't think there is any comparison. Small shops retain a personal touch and give you the feeling that the owners are more than people who just want to make money. Small businesses make you feel that you are contributing to keep the community going by shopping there. Of course, the big stores have a lot more variety and are able to have sales and cut their prices when they need to.
Other possible questions. 5. What kinds of small business are most popular in China?
Well, you see them everywhere, and the new ones pop up almost daily. What are they? Well, you guessed it, beauty salons and hairdressers and haircutters. If you walk down any given street, you will see one or two on each corner. People are much more interested in style and being in fashion, so that is why these businesses are so popular. If you look around, you will see so many new hairdos.
6. Why do some people open their own business?
People want to be able to say, "This is mine." They want to be able to do something on their own. They want to see something grow that they had a direct part in. People also want to make money, of course, and this might even be the main reason.
7. What qualities does a small business owner need to have?
A small business owner would have to be diligent with his business, wanting to make sure that things are done right. He would need to have patience, the ability to wait until the business starts succeeding. He would have to have plenty of capital to get his business off the ground. A small business owner would also have to have a sense of humor, to laugh when he feels like crying.
8. How have small businesses changed in recent years in China?
There is a lot more freedom here in China to start your own business and make it succeed. There are a lot more small businesses than in the past. Because of China's entry into the WTO, there are a lot more products and therefore more businesses. As I mentioned before, style is becoming more popular, so more businesses open to keep up with it.
9. How do you think small businesses will change in the future in China?
I think that people are working together more and want to get their small businesses going and progressing so that they can branch out and grow. You will see small businesses flexing their muscle in the rural areas and expanding their support base. You will see small businesses affecting life much more than they do now. Small businesses are the future of China and will continue being so as time goes on.
10. Compare owning and running a small business to being an employee in a large company.
I think that I am passionate about this. I feel that owning and operating a small business is everything good, and working as a cog in a wheel for a large company is everything bad. Maybe it's just me, but I like to experiment and try new things, and when you have your own business, you can do this. I've got to feel like I am making a difference. Owning a small business would do this for me. Topic 38. A large sum of money. Cue card. Describe what you would do if you received a very large amount of money. You should say who you would share it with, what you would buy, what else you would do, and explain how you would feel about getting so much money.
It really depends on how much money a large amount is. If it's in the trillions, I'd probably buy up most of Europe, or maybe North America. I would be my own little king and have everyone pay homage to me. There would be no more wars because I wouldn't let them happen. I would be fair to all people. We would commission all of the nuclear scientists to try to discover an economical, plentiful, and non-toxic substitute for gasoline and diesel. There would be less pollution because if you want to drive a gas-powered vehicle, you'd have to pay a fine. As far as noise pollution, there would be less because there would be fewer things to complain about. I would sponsor rock festivals so that everyone could partake of the beauties of music. All my subjects would love me because they'd know I'm trying my best not to be like all of the leaders in the past who gave in to their own desires and lusts. Instead, I would give the people what they want. I would use all the money that would normally be spent on war to help poorer nations, improve the lives of war-torn countries, and build a big roller coaster theme park. When all this is done, and with whatever money I have left, I would get the best, most expensive guitar on the market and hire a super skilled guitar player to teach me all he knows. I'd really enjoy that.
Part 3. Money. 1. Is money important to you?
Money isn't really that important to me, but you need money to live, and if you don't have money, then you can't do anything. But I'm really against the idea of just spending your whole life trying to make a bunch of money so that you can die a rich man. Most of the people who do that don't even get to enjoy the money they have, and they're never content with what they have because they always want more.
2. Do you think children are given too much pocket money in China?
It really depends on how much they're getting. Some kids definitely get way more than they need, and others don't get enough. There are some families where the parents hardly have enough money to pay their bills and get food. I don't think these families should feel obliged to give their children money that they don't have. But if they do have money, then it would be nice to give at least some spending money to their children.
3. How do you think parents could teach the value of money to their children?
If you give your children only a small amount of money each week, then they'll have to learn to make it last. It might take a while for them to learn, and they might be broke for the first few months, but after a while they'll realize that money doesn't grow on trees, and will respect its value. Of course, there are children who always want everything they see, and if the parents give it to them, then the kids won't value money at all.
4. Do you think it is important to let children learn money skills?
I think that's a wonderful idea. If all kids knew how to do banking, open a savings account, and cash checks, their parents would have a lot more leisure time. And even if the parents still do the banking, at least when their kids grow up, they won't be totally helpless. In fact, they'll have a big jump on the other kids their age.
5. Do you think people should be paid extra when they work overtime?
If you pay someone extra to work overtime, then you're, in a sense, giving them an incentive to work harder. When the workday is over, most people just want to go home and relax. Some people are workaholics and don't think anything of working until 3 or 4 in the morning and getting up at 6 a few hours later to go back to work. But these people are rare. So, if you want more people to work later, an overtime bonus is a very good idea.
Money and society. 6. What kinds of jobs have higher pay? Why?
Jobs like designing and repairing computer software, lawyers, doctors and surgeons, building designers, scientists, and Hollywood actors are some better paying jobs. All these jobs require years of study, research, and lots of experience in that field.
7. What occupations do you think will get high salary in the future?
People who are multilingual will be highly sought after in the future. As the world is becoming more international, people who speak more than 2 languages fluently will be greatly needed. English is the main international language right now, but there are billions of extremely intellectual individuals who can't speak or understand English. These people don't want to get left out of all the fun and games that are happening in the rest of the world, so they need translators who will be able to make them understood by people of different races.
8. Is pay the most important factor in a job?
The most important factor is, as most fun-loving people know, how much vacation time you get. Not only time off, but paid time off. Another important thing to keep in mind is what kind of work it is. Some work is just boring and nobody likes doing it, except for boring people. But if you really want to excel in your work, pick something that you feel comfortable doing, something that you're good at. The workplace environment is also very important. Some offices are stuffy and drab, whereas others make you feel fresh and alive.
9. What is the primary source of income for the Chinese government?
The primary source of government income is taxes. Taxes are the way that governments support all their projects around the country, whether they're building skyscrapers, roads, or schools in impoverished counties. All this funding comes from taxes. Another way to put it is that you're supporting the government because you're the one paying the taxes. Whenever you see government officials on the news doing something or another, you can know that you are actually responsible, since it is you who made it possible for them to do it.
10. Do you think the government should let people know how it spends money?
You know, that would be very nice. I've always wondered what exactly is going on behind those closed doors. Naturally, some things just can't be talked about because they're state secrets. And some things you probably don't want to know about, such as how much money was spent on this banquet or that convention, or how many liters of gasoline their vehicles consume each month. But I would like to know exactly what they're spending my money on. Topic 39. A goal you want to achieve. Cue card. Describe something that you would like to succeed in doing in the near future. You should say what it is, how difficult you think it will be, what you should do to prepare for this, and explain why you want to succeed in doing this.
Well, when it comes to my business life, my work and career, I am still contemplating my options, but right now, the real problem for me is getting married. It is very hard to find a suitable match simply because I cannot please everybody. I must think about what my family wants, what the world around me would be pleased with, and the last person on the list to worry about is me. It will take a lot of searching, a lot of concentration. In my life, my schedule seldom permits free time, much less time to date, and I am often too shy to begin from scratch. I do not have many close friends, and those that I do have are either married or do not make a very good match for me. An extra difficulty is that I am not too good at the whole parents-in-law situation. I would find myself quite unhappy with this traditional way of living. Many Chinese must put up with their husband or wife and also their parents and relatives, and must receive critiquing or judgment from all sides. I do not want to live this way, and I don't want a partner that I must put up with. I want to have love in my life. But traditions are traditions, and I must follow some kind of pattern. Thus, my first step might be to ask my parents and my aunt and uncle to look for a suitable partner for me, and then we can begin by writing each other, and when we feel we have enough common ground, we can arrange a meeting.
Part 3. Success. 1. How would you define success?
There are so many ways to define it. I believe success is feeling my life is worth living and being a good person to those around me. If I have a partner, or children, or relatives dependent on me, I would consider it a success if I were able to provide them with a good lifestyle and everything they need. Success would mean my reputation as a good person travels ahead of me. It would mean I would have a goal and hope for life, and would stand out amongst others.
2. Do you think most people want to succeed in life?
I would imagine they do, but as I said, there are many ways to define success. It is the inborn desire of a human to want to be the best they could be, to want more. Everybody wants life to be worthwhile. They want their husband or wife to be proud of them. They want their children to admire them, and they want a sense of fulfillment. It's natural.
3. When do people most want to be successful?
Well, I would say it's after they realize that life is a struggle and that they must make it on their own. When we are young, we can depend on others and do not feel the need to make something of ourselves. It's when the pressure kicks in and the understanding comes to us that we find we must choose for ourselves whether we will be happy or sad, a success or a failure. When we grow up and are more mature, we begin to have others depend on us, looking to us, and we feel the responsibility to do our part in the world.
4. What kind of success is most important to Chinese people?
Well, originally it was about being a good provider for one's family, finding one's children a good husband or wife, having enough land to live off. But now that China is much more open, people begin to feel success is about making enough money to never have to worry about anything. It's also about giving that feeling of relaxed and easy living to their children. Get them into the best school. Buy them a house so they don't have to work. Hand life to them on a silver platter. This is beginning to be the image of success, and the people of this country are bombarded with advertisements, movies and pictures of the easy life, the rich and famous, and they feel this is the only way to succeed. I myself feel it has downsides and must really consider what I want for my life.
5. Do you think that successful people are always happier than unsuccessful people?
Again, this depends on your idea of success. But whatever it means to a person, if they are dissatisfied with the cards they are dealt and do not realize they can determine their success, then yes, I imagine they are not happy at all. But sometimes those that we think are successful on the outside, or what we see of them, are not happy. They do not consider their life worth the trouble. So no, I do not think successful people are always happier than unsuccessful people.
Success and reward. 6. How should parents reward their children for success? For example, for doing very well in exams at school.
I believe parents should give their child the sense that success is their reward. They should help the children to feel a sense of pride in their accomplishments and not always expect to receive a candy bar or a trip to the amusement park for every good deed. It is true that children need encouragement, but they should realize that the reason they worked for the good score on the exams was because learning is important and will help their lives to be better. They should not be thinking, I am studying hard and getting a good score because my mother promised me new toys or extra money. They will never become truly successful if they are dependent on that candy bar or those new toys.
7. How do teachers in China reward students for doing well?
They may give the best student the title of class monitor. In school, we always had class monitors, and being the monitor meant that we were responsible and trusted people. Often the students need good grades and good reputations or connections to assist them later when they get out of school or wish to get into a good university or college. If a student is exceptional, then at the end of the year or semester, the teacher can write a letter or paper describing the student's good qualities. Such documents may help to prove students' worth or abilities later in life, when they are in search of a job.
8. How do bosses in China reward employees for a job well done?
It depends. Sometimes it means extra money, and sometimes it means promotion. But then sometimes the bosses do not reward their employees and simply demand that each worker be giving their best for whatever pay is offered. Chinese are naturally hard workers. It's in their blood. So because of this, the mentality is, they are working for me, they give their best day in and day out because it's their job and duty as humans. On top of that, there are so many people who can work and need work, so there is not much value placed on the employees.
Competition versus cooperation. 9. Which do you think is a better attitude for children to have? A strong spirit of competition or a strong spirit of cooperation with others?
Both. One can be competent, but if they cannot cooperate with others, they will meet with failure in their life. No matter where you go, what position you hold in a company, you will have to work with others, communicate and cooperate with them. If all you are capable of is competition, how can anyone else benefit you? Whatever those children choose to do, they will desperately need both skills.
10. Do you think that too much competition could damage the spirit of cooperation in society?
Of course. By that I mean that competition can eventually lead to war, as has happened on a number of occasions in Central America. If you promote competition so much in comparison to fair play and good sportsmanship, then the wrong values are being espoused. Cooperation is based on working together to help the whole. When you foster this spirit, then you are contributing to society.
11. Some people say that success means being number 1 and that being number 2 is valueless. What do you think?
This is really an immature way to look at life. I really believe that you just have to get up and keep trying, no matter who is in first or even second place. Just finishing the race has its rewards. Forget about what others are doing and just get on with life. This is my philosophy, which I try to live by. Topic 40. A meal. Cue card. Describe a meal you would like to invite your friends to. You should say who you would invite, where you would eat this meal, what you would eat, and explain why you would choose to eat this food. I would like to invite my friends to a hot pot meal. I would invite my closest friends, the ones that I hang out with and have the most in common with. I would of course invite my girlfriend so that she could meet my friends. That is important to me. I think my girlfriend should know what I am like when I am with my friends. I would find a nice restaurant with a good atmosphere, where the waiters are friendly and the owners are working to give you the best experience you can have. I would not choose a big monstrous place where everything would seem so impersonal, but instead a restaurant that has a family ambience. I would order hot pot with lots of meat, lamb, pork, beef, fish, tofu. I am getting hungry just thinking about it. I would also order some nice vegetables and noodles, and to top it off, some ice-cold beer to wash it down. I really like hot pot because of the atmosphere it creates of everyone eating together and pulling things from the pot and dipping it in their favorite sauce, just relaxing and enjoying the food and the friendship. Part 3. Diet. 1. What kinds of food do Chinese people like to eat?
Many Chinese like to eat their vegetables cooked. They enjoy eating food that is fried, steamed, and sometimes boiled, but rarely eat baked food. The only time they will eat baked goods is when they have cakes from the store. Most Chinese food is cut in bite-sized pieces before being cooked and served.
2. How important is eating a healthy diet?
I think eating healthy is a very important part of life. If you don't give your body what it needs, then it won't be able to function well. This is why what you eat is so important to how well you are able to do things. Eating well even improves study.
3. Are there many vegetarians in China?
I believe there are a fair amount of vegetarians. Most Chinese already eat very little meat, so without even trying, they are almost vegetarians. However, I think if they had the chance, many Chinese would eat more meat than they do now. Though, as health awareness increases, I believe there will be a rise in the number of vegetarians in China.
4. Is the food that people eat today in China different to the food that people used to eat in the past?
I think that in many ways it is quite the same. I do know that in recent years there has been a rise in the number of fast food restaurants. Many people, especially of the younger generation, enjoy going to these restaurants. The actual Chinese food, though, has not seen much change over the years.
5. How do you think the way we eat will change in the future?
Our eating habits will of course affect the way we will live in the future, because of the effect it has on our health. If we eat well, then we will have better health as we get older. I believe, though, that as time goes by, fast food will become more popular. We will be entering a time in history where going fast will mean the difference between success and failure, so the food industry will change to accommodate the population's demand.
6. Is fast food popular in China?
Yes, fast food is very popular here in China. I believe the main reason is because the taste is very different from that of Chinese food. This appeals to the youth of China. Also, the advertisements of most fast food restaurants portray their food as cool or Western food.
Eating habits. 7. Who do most Chinese people usually eat with?
Chinese will usually eat with their family, classmates or colleagues. Most couples eat together as often as they can. When eating out, you will often see groups of friends out together. You can also see families sharing some time together over a nice meal.
8. Do you think it's important for people to eat with their family?
I think that when you eat with your family, it strengthens the family bonds. It helps you get to know each other better and learn more about what each other is doing in their lives. It's very sad when families don't see each other often. Often in China, mealtimes are the only time a family spends together.
9. Do Chinese people often eat out?
I think most families rarely eat out. Usually either the mother or the grandmother of the family will cook and prepare the food. It is more common for young singles and professionals to eat out, either alone or with classmates or colleagues. Often married or dating couples will spend a dinner together for special occasions or to get to know each other more.
10. What kinds of restaurants do young people in China prefer?
I think they prefer fast food or Western restaurants. Often it's because it's considered cool to eat or take people out to these kinds of restaurants. or they enjoy the food because it tastes different from Chinese food. They also may want to accustom themselves to Western food and culture because they want to be comfortable around foreigners, or they would like to travel abroad.
11. How do you think restaurants have changed over the past few years?
Before, the restaurants did not cater to foreigners at all. The menus were all in Chinese and had no pictures. Now, more restaurants, especially in areas with many foreigners, will have menus in English and pictures for those who are not familiar with Chinese dishes.
12. How do you think restaurants will change in the future?
I think that in the future, all or nearly all restaurants will have food to cater to different nationalities and food preferences. I think that the standard of both food and service will also improve. They will also probably be more sanitary.